Yeah, I'm bid 30 now 5. Would you get 35? Anybody going to get 35 now? 40 to buy, bid them on 40 now 5. Who to give me 45? And I've sold it $40.
Yep, we're going to talk about it today. Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Suits and Boots Legal Talk. I'm Luke Martin, one of the attorneys with Benbow, Davidson, and Martin. I'm here with a guest today, Mr. Zach Johnson, and you guys have already heard him showing off. So Zach, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, happy to be here. I've watched a few of these podcasts. Glad to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's awesome. So tell us, who are you? What do you do? This is something new for the podcast for sure. So it's unique. I'd like to hear about it.
Yeah, so my day job, I'm an auctioneer and a real estate broker. They kind of go hand in hand. A lot of people don't realize that. Some of the most valuable assets in the world are sold at auction, and real estate's no different.
Yeah.
That's how we met, in the real estate closing process. Just real estate in North Carolina, some in Southern Virginia, some in Northern South Carolina. Yep. But I'd say of my business, 85 to 90% is real estate, and the other 10% business liquidations, estate sales, that side of the personal property auction world.
Yeah, so we've been doing a couple of podcasts here on real estate and kind of the state of the market. I think as far as market goes, real estate is probably one of the most speculated about, like, what's going to happen with housing prices? What's going to happen with real estate? Is there another bubble? Is it going to bust? All these questions are out there. What are you seeing in the market now?
Well, I definitely think it's a harder market for your sellers compared to the boom that we had, after we all came out of COVID. Mm-hmm. What I see right now is it's hard to use comps even from, 3-6 months ago because the market is changing so rapidly. Yeah. It's slowing down, and we can all speculate on why that is, but at the end of the day, it's speculative. We don't really know.
You talk about comps. We did a podcast a few weeks ago on appraisals and the eminent domain process. We talked a little bit about comps in that one. If you haven't seen that one, go back and watch it. But when a real estate agent is looking at comps, what do you mean by that? What are you looking for there?
So basically, you're looking for a comp is just short for comparable. You're looking for a comparable property. And there's two sides of that. The property needs to be comparable in the size of it, if it's a home, the features of the home, number of bedrooms, so on and so forth. But when you say comparable, it's also a timeline related because the market does change from year to year, from month to month sometimes. And so the more recent the comparable sale, the better judge of value it is. And that sort of leads into the auction method. Both an appraisal and a broker price opinion or an opinion by a real estate broker of what a property is worth uses sales in the past, those comparable properties.
So that you're looking at those comparable properties to determine, how much are we going to list this property for? Or in your case, maybe how much should we expect it to bring at auction, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And in either of those scenarios, it's good to have that number so hey, am I getting a deal, at this offer that we're getting, or am I giving it away? Obviously, that number is valuable. I would argue that the auction method is almost like a real-time evaluation. The auction method will deliver a price to the seller on that day for that specific property. Comps, we can get them close, but let's say your neighbor's house has a fireplace and yours doesn't. We make that adjustment in the analysis of the data. Sure. But a pool's a great example too. Some people love pools. Some would rather just fill them in with dirt, so they have a bigger backyard. But that specific property on that specific day, an auction will give you a real-time number on what the public's willing to pay. And at that point, if it aligns with what we believe the market should bring, the seller can make a decision or not to sell based on their specific needs. Yeah,
so you got into this auction world pretty early in your real estate career. I mean, that's all you've really ever done, right?
Correct. And we still sell a fair amount of traditional or the typical real estate sales.
Where you do like a listing and have showings.
On the MLS. Yeah. But really the auction method is unique. It's not perfect for every property, and it's not perfect for every seller. But when those stars align, that's where we can step in and offer a solution to our sellers.
Yeah. Talk a little bit about the difference between that traditional listing and the auction method. What can people expect to see there, and maybe what properties benefit? And we can take these two things maybe one at a time, but what properties benefit from the auction method versus a traditional listing style?
Sure. I'd say the similarities, they're quite similar. If you're taking a traditional sale and an auction sale, let's say on your typical 1,800 square foot brick ranch, there's a million of them in the Piedmont and foothills of North Carolina where we live. We still sell those properties. We list them on the MLS like a traditional marketing method. We still have to disclose any material facts. It's not like if we're selling a property at auction and we know there's asbestos in it. State law, says we have to disclose that. It's not a way to hide an issue.
Yep.
Really, the real estate auction method is just a different way to market a property. Again, all the same disclosures have to be filled out. The contracts are pretty similar. The auction offer to purchase contract is a little bit more seller friendly, to where in the traditional sales, the buyer kind of has the keys to the kingdom. They can terminate for any reason or no reason at all. The buyer gets to dictate the terms of the offer. They say, oh, we're going to offer this much for due diligence fee, this long of an inspection period. Really, the auction method kind of puts that in the buyer's court, or the seller's court, sorry.
Yeah.
They get to determine pretty much all the terms of the auction. The only thing they let the public control is the price.
So in the traditional world, in a traditional listing, you're just kind of waiting around to see what you put it out there like, hey, here's the price we'd like to have. And then you just kind of wait around to see what somebody offers. And they
Correct.
can structure that offer however they want to. In the auction world, you're doing something different than that. You're setting the terms like, hey, here's what it's going to be, and then taking bids or something like that, right?
Yep, and everyone's on the same playing field.
Yeah, okay.
Because buyer A isn't going to have a different earnest money deposit than buyer B. It's
Gotcha.
Everyone is the same. The only thing that will win is the highest price.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
typically that's what our sellers are looking for.
Sure.
Is the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time. You alluded to the traditional method. The property may sit on the market for a day, or it may be 8 months. You just don't quite ever know, where the auction method does provide that time-defined solution to where the seller can almost be guaranteed that as long as we do our job, the market shows up, we get it sold, it'll be closed, and they'll have the money in their pocket within 30 days.
Yeah, so we have, with a traditional method, you don't have the ability to tell that buyer, hey, you put your bid in today or it's off the market tomorrow. But with an auction method, that's kind of the way it works. It's like, hey, we're into this auction tonight at whatever time. If you don't bid, it's gone to somebody else. So it kind of puts the pressure on the buyer at that point, doesn't it?
Well, it does, and I believe the auction method is fair for both sides. It's the most fair. As a seller, you didn't leave any money on the table. Again, as long as I did my job and the market showed up, we have the registered bidders, the market will tell us what it's worth. And they know they didn't leave a single penny on the table because we got every dime we could. But then the buyer also knows that they didn't overpay. In this market that we came out of post-COVID, buyers were throwing ridiculous offers at these properties because they really wanted them. They may have been overpaying 10, 15, 20,000 because they didn't know that their competition. The way that the traditional real estate world is set up legally, the broker can't disclose what the other offers are without permission from all parties and whatnot. But in the auction world, that buyer knows that they only paid a little bit more than the person right underneath them, so they're assured that they paid market value, and the seller knows they received market value.
Because they saw or heard that last bid, so they know, hey, that person bid 100,000, I only bid 105.
Correct.
And so they know exactly where they're at then in that process. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
In my opinion, it's the most fair and transparent way to sell just about anything. And we've sold everything from entire mountainsides at auction all the way to some dentures one time. So you just never know what you're going to run into in the personal property world.
Were they like George Washington's dentures or something? Or
they were old.
Okay.
And they had a lot of gold filling.
Okay.
Was what brought the high value. But
there you go, folks. If you're looking for dentures, this is your man right here.
Absolutely.
So there have to be some disadvantages to the auction method. I mean, it can't all be sunshine and roses. So what are there any disadvantages? What are they, and how do you overcome those?
Yeah, so one of the biggest, when I get called in to look at a property, every property isn't an auction property.
Sure.
Really, the auction method does great with unique assets. The more unique, the better.
Okay.
Think of if you have a subdivision where the homes are 8 feet apart and they all look the same. Chances are you can get a pretty good indicator of value based on what your neighbors' homes have sold for.
Because you have so many comps and they're all the same.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so in that instance, I can't say that I'm selling something special and that people are going to be fighting over it, especially when maybe in that subdivision, maybe I take a look and there's already 6 or 7 other houses actively listed.
Sure.
I'm not going to tell that seller that I can move heaven and earth and we can get it sold for more or the same amount as those other homes, because there's just a lot of options for buyers out there.
Yep.
Now, in that same scenario, if that seller has to sell for whatever reason, maybe it's a job transfer, maybe it's a home they inherited, and they don't want to have the upkeep on it. They don't want to pay taxes, insurance. It's just eating into the bottom line. The auction method can provide that time to find solution to sell it, but I'm not going to paint a picture that we're going to get more or even as much as these other properties.
Yeah.
Again, each property has to be evaluated and each seller has to be evaluated. And if the auction method isn't perfect for them, we're completely upfront about that. And we can either refer them to another broker that may be perfect for them or list it ourselves, because we're a traditional real estate brokerage as well.
Yep.
But we try to focus mostly on the auction method.
Yeah, yeah. So with the one of the things that you mentioned there, that is one of the areas that we work together quite a bit, are these estates where someone's passed away, the family's inherited some property, and you guys come in and help them to liquidate that and turn maybe a house full of stuff and real estate into cash that they can then divide between siblings or whatever. So that's a big part of your business, isn't it?
It is. And on the personal property side of things, not only can we, turn that quote unquote stuff, and we don't mean that in a disrespectful way, but a lot of people are overwhelmed at the amount
well, a lot of times
items.
it's a lifetime worth of things that our house is full of it. It's just a lifetime of things that you've gotten over the years. Some of it's valuable, some of it's not, and something has to be done with it.
Yep. And again, we provide that solution to walk people hand in hand. And we may tell them, hey, your best bet may be to do Facebook Marketplace yourself, because you have a few valuable items and the rest, maybe it's best if you just find someone to come clean it out.
Yeah.
But typically we can take all the contents of the house, turn it into cash for them, a check,
Sure.
mail them a check, especially if they're not local. They can be as hands-off or as hands-on as they want.
Yeah.
But really at the end of the day, if the goal is to sell the real estate, getting out the personal property is paramount, because the real estate will bring far less money. Even if they don't sell it at auction, if they choose to sell it conventionally, the real estate will bring a lot more money if it's just cleaned up and ready to market and present. Because you only get one shot to make a first impression on the market, and the second you upload photos of just trash in the yard and a house full of stuff, it turns it into a scenario where you're not only losing money by not selling the personal property, you're losing a lot of money on the real estate as well.
One of the things you had mentioned earlier was marketing. So for the auction method, your marketing is probably the most important part of what you do, really, because you need to get those bidders to see this property. People who want the property need to see it, know that it's available, and so they can get in there in time to get a bid in. So talk about your marketing and how the Swicegood Group and you guys work together to do your marketing.
Yeah, that you hit the nail on the head. The auction method of selling is really the auction method of marketing.
Yeah.
Marketing, I tell people all the time, an auction's a lot like a birthday party. If no one shows up, it's not going to be very much fun.
Yeah.
And so in those regards, we do everything like a traditional, let's just take a real estate auction, for example. We do everything that a traditional broker would do. We list it on the MLS, which populates to all the syndicated websites that you're familiar with, Realtor.com, Zillow, Trulia, all those, we do that as well. But where we go above and beyond is finding the buyers via digital marketing. we're more of an aggressive approach to where in the traditional world, you may list a property at $200,000 and people know, buyers know, unless it's a crazy market like we just came out of, buyers know they can pay less than that or that number. Mm-hmm. That's the list price. Rarely do you get an offer that exceeds that.
Yep.
In the auction world, we do the exact opposite. We start super low, as low as $1 on some $500,000 real estate assets, and we create that excitement. And that marketing is how we do that. We send out emails. We do Google campaigns, social media. Really, everyone's glued to their phones, so that's where we meet them.
Yep.
We may put $3,000 or $4,000 into a marketing campaign to reach those folks, and we can use without tipping our hand at the secrets. We can search by different demographics, and we can target our market and spend our money and our clients' money wisely to market just to that group.
Sure.
But our goal is just to get them interested.
Yeah.
They may come to the website and see that the property's at $50,000 for a $500,000 house. Anyone in the right mind would be a little intrigued. So as long as we can get them to look at our marketing materials, we incorporate a lot of drone video, really just trying to showcase the asset we're selling, whether it is that $500,000 home or a narcotics seized asset in Charlotte.
Yeah.
Our job is to sell it, and for as most money as we can, and in the shortest amount of time that we can.
Sure.
But to your point, marketing is key. I think that's the biggest thing that differentiates the auction method from the traditional method. Is the traditional method is to put a sign out in the yard and hope that buyers come.
Yep.
We do that too, but we actively go out, track them down, and drag them to our website so they can see. And when I say website, almost all of our auctions are online only. We've just found that it'll yield the highest purchase price for our sellers.
Sure.
And allows the most people to participate.
Well, one of the most intriguing things to me, we've done a couple of auctions together on properties for some of the law firm's clients. And every time I hear you guys talk about where your bidders are located, and it's multiple states. It's not like, you'd think you're doing an auction for this property in Statesville, you're going to have a lot of local people, but that's not the case, is it? You get people from everywhere.
Yeah, that's the beauty of the online method. It doesn't matter where you are or what you're doing, as long as you have internet connection, you can participate. We actually had a gentleman, I've told the story a few times, was on an airliner. He won an auction. I called. It went straight to voicemail. I started to get worried just because my job at that point when the auction ends is to get it under contract.
Yeah.
Get the earnest money, basically protect our sellers. He missed 2 of my calls, went straight to voicemail. He called me back and said, listen, I was on a flight to Dallas, Texas, American Airlines, whatever. He said, I was bidding on your app on my phone because I had internet. So from 30,000 feet, he bought 40 acres of real estate from us. And that in and of itself, I tell sellers all the time, is why we do online only.
Yeah.
Or sometimes we do simulcast where it's live and online. But without that online portion, you limit the buyer pool. There's no way to quantify it, but it's significant.
It's got to be, because anybody who's got access to the internet now is a potential bidder for your property. That's incredible. So we started this thing out with this weird thing that auctioneers do that everybody's heard, and every time you think about an auctioneer, you think about the chant. Talk just a little bit about the chant. What in the world are you saying?
Well, each chant's different, and with online auctions, we do less and less of live bid calling. Still, numerous times a year, you have benefit auctions or fundraisers where you get to, grab the microphone and you're in front of 400 or 500 people. It's fun.
Yeah.
But really, the auction, the bid chant can be broken down into 2 sections, basically. The first, what you're trying to convey is how much money you have as the auctioneer, what the current bid is, and then how much you're asking. And you can go as fast or as slow as you want. There's filler words in between there, but really it's just numbers in filler words. A brief example, if you will, is let's say I'm bid $30 for this microphone in front of me.
Yeah.
I would tell folks I'm bid 30, and then I need to tell them what I'm asking. So I want 35. I'm going to go up in $5 increments.
Yep.
So I'm bid 30. Now 5, would you give 35? And really, after that, it's just speeding it up, maybe I used would you give?
Yeah.
That's a filler word because I can't just say 30, 30, 35, 35, 35. I mean, I could, but to make it more eloquent, you insert words. So it goes from I'm bid 30, now 5, 35, would you give 35? You speed that up. I'm bid 30, now 5, would you give 35? I'm bid 30, now 5, would you give 35? I'm bid 30, now 5, would you give 45? Now 40. And so you go up in increments, and if you're selling real estate, it may look more like I'm bid 100, now 25. Who to give me 125,000? And you have to go slower when you're dealing with more money. If I'm selling trinkets at a farmer's market or whatever it may be, there's not as much money in play, and you can go faster. And really, the fastest bid caller isn't always the best. If you're selling cattle and you need to do it quickly and you have experienced buyers, you can move faster. But if you're selling at a benefit auction to where people aren't typically auction bidders, you have to slow it down a lot.
They might not be comfortable. Like, are we at 50 or 60? What did he say?
Correct. And the auctioneer isn't trying to create confusion. If anything, we are in charge of getting rid of confusion, and that's why we're up there. We're in charge. If a buyer, if I'm asking 35 and a buyer says 32 and a half, I'm in charge. I may say thank you, but we're at 35 and keep rolling. If I think it's winding down and I want to take every penny I can for my seller, I may accept that 32 and a half and then ask for 35. So every auction's different, every bid caller's different, but all it takes is a little bit of practice. You can start with anybody want to give, 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 anybody want to give. So you speed it up. But starting out, YouTube is great. Look it up on YouTube if you want to practice. But auctions are fun. They're an event. They're entertaining for a lot of folks. Some folks come just to listen to the bid chant.
We went to, my family and I went to they have a horse auction down at Troutman at the fairgrounds. We went down and just sat and listened to the bids for a little while. It is entertaining. It is entertaining. And you guys do that, and it just it generates this excitement in the atmosphere when you're at an auction, listening to those live bids, and then you get good ring men down there who are yelling and hollering, and you see it on the auto auctions that you see on TV all the time. Those guys generate a lot of excitement. It just gets people pumped up, which creates an atmosphere of kind of competition, and then that's just good for sellers.
Anytime that bidders compete, sellers win. And that's really the crux behind the auction method is competition. If you don't have someone to compete against, you're not going to bid more. But if you see someone over there or online, if someone's outbidding you, I've been to plenty of auctions where I've heard, I'm not spending more than $100 for that chainsaw. Next thing you know, the guy wins it for $250. It's just, he let his emotions and competition get the best of him. And
the more they can compete, the better it is. It is. So, guys, if you're looking for someone to get people to compete for your property, this is your guy right here. This Zach Johnson, the Swicegood Group. We'll have his contact information down below if you guys want to contact them. They are excellent to work with, and we've worked with them on several projects. So, Zach, thanks for being here today, man.
Thanks for having me.
Really enjoyed the conversation. So, you guys take care. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, our Facebook page, and watch for this content. We're going to keep it coming. So, thanks so much.
The information contained in this video and audio recording is general in nature and should not be relied upon in making legal decisions. Every situation is different, and you should consult with your attorney before making any legal decisions.